Welcome back, everybody, to On the Edge of Shadow. I am your narrator, Blackthorn. This is the prologue to Shapes in the Dark. To set the scene for us as the stage curtains open here, we look upon the city of Felport 10 years after the sun goddess Vastru, the mistress who resides over the dawn and morning, all of the sunlight that is before the time of high noon, was slain. Currently, at this horrible and nightmarish time in Arclanar's history, there is no morning. The most sunlight that the world gets at this time is, think of about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, mid-fall. So the sun doesn't truly rise to its brightest at high noon anymore, but as always seems to be in a state of almost like perpetual dusk. Our camera pans across Felport's great docks, and on its flagstone byways, we see two individuals walking down the main causeway of the city that kind of serves as a kind of inner. It makes an almost circular spine to the city of Felport, as Felport's actually built on somewhat of a half hill, half escarpment, looking over a cold and windy, almost like a Denmark kind of northern sea. These two characters having a somewhat of a private conversation there as the rain, a common staple of the Ebon Vales. Weather is coming down, not hard, but enough to be annoying. I mean, natives of the region just they ignore the rain after some time, but both of you clad in your furs and your wool cloaks, with heavy hoods obscuring your features. Keith, would you describe Fernaleus for us?
Fernaleus looks to be a fairly tall individual, lanky possibly. It's hard to tell, though, because he's wearing the robes that are normally worn by scholars, so his are of an odd cut for the area. He takes after his mentor, his dress style and such. He has a very large hood pulled over his head to keep the water out of his eyes, and he has an expression on his face of mild annoyance, because the rain itself has always been something that has just annoyed him. The noise of it, just the mere presence of it. For some reason, he has no idea why. His eyes have a very, very faint red tinge to them, possibly because of his birth. His skin, of course, is a very, very pale flesh tone. He has the very fine features of his ancestry. So his nose is sort of small, fairly full lips. Some would even say luscious, and a chin that has a bit of a square jaw. It's more so square than his ancestry would normally expect. In fact, and he is very odd in his looks, but very intriguing. He has that, the way he walks, the way he moves, just seems to be a bit off. Of course, he has his head down in a satchel on his left hip. He carries his writing utensils and whatnot, and he has his arm protectively over the top of that. Of course, always fearing thieves may be out to steal those precious tablets and such that he always carries with him, the wax boards and such.
Beautiful. Thank you, Fernaleus. Mike, would you describe for us Amorous Thorn?
Mr. Thorne, well, if you didn't know you were looking for him, you might just look him over. No, he sits a little over about 5'3". Clad in very rustic wear. You can definitely tell he spent probably a little bit too long out in the wild. His hair is actually quite long, reaching down to about the small of his back. Roots show to be black in color, though if you look closely enough, you can actually see almost a kaleidoscope of colors going throughout it. His eyes almost reflect the sky as it rains, kind of a blue, but kind of that edge of a rain cloud right before it starts becoming a downpour. People who look into his eyes say it's either the hardest thing you've ever seen, like they're going to look right through you, or someone that you know you can trust your life with. Kind of depends on how well you treat him. His skin is quite burnished, has pretty literally a golden color to it. If I can get my brain to work today, I apologize, ladies and gentlemen.
Totally fine.
Right. No, but besides all that, he kind of has he always has like a smirk on the edge of his lips. The man's never not smiling. When he does, you need to run as bad things are about to happen. He sees the rain, kind of just gives a smirk and says, well, I really hope he doesn't ruin my strings. But besides that, has that look of not a care in the world, just walks his way through town like, well, he's going to get a drink and play a song, hopefully.
Beautifully done. Thank you. So you guys are moving through the harbor district, and there's a rather awful row somewhere down here in the harbor. You've noticed that the local each district in Fellport has a almost like a gladiatorial team of athletes that kind of fights in a tournament when these districts are pit each other against themselves in a tournament that happens every cycle. And this this local sport in Fellport, it's kind of like a cross between rugby and almost boxing, quite literally. Get a ball from one end of the goal to the other, score a point, beat the shit out of somebody on the way there. And this is more often than not, it's members of the Ebon Watch as well as the Ebon Guard that actually do participate in this, or some non-military citizens that actually participate in this. And since the Gloom Willow cycle has begun, the Overseer has kind of mandated that this sport has not occurred because the city is trying to adjust to the fact that the half of the two sun gods of this world have been slain, and we're not getting near as much sunlight. So we're trying to the overseer, let's just be cool, guys, and rebuild our society. Nah, the military is chomping at the bit. They're not at war right now. The Watch as well as the Ebon Guard need to vent their aggression, and it's starting to get bad. You guys pass by what looks to be a column of the harbor district fighters, and they're at a gate making a huge ruckus. saying and shouting horrible things you would not say to men, women, or children. They're very upset people. In a different part of the city, Tane, a shaman, a Geet shaman, enters the city astride his horse. The past 2 days, you have been being followed by a thunderstorm on the road, and by all the gods, old and new. You were able to beat it, entering the city just as the rain hits. It's like, oh shit! Now I'm gonna be soaked. You're out there. The guards do not cost you in any way. They just stormtroopers. Move along, move along. Describe Tane for us. You come back to the city of Felport, having been given word that 2 of your closest companions in this lifetime have picked out a tavern and a quiet-ish place to have a meal, as well as a few drinks and a couple songs, hopefully. Describe your character for us.
What's the name of the tavern?
It's called the Devil's Rest. It's in the Harbor District.
Rest. Okay. Well, I need to know my story if I get questioned.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah, I get you.
So you see Tane coming in astride his mare. Not a common sight in this area, as being of northern descent. His pale skin has a tendency to stand out, but the darkness around his eyes, which is natural, he seems to be, his oculars are sort of darkened. But oddly enough, for a Geet, he is kind of red-haired. His beard, forked at the bottom, hangs over his leather hauberk with the decorative symbol of his herd, as he called them. The common folk would call them a tribe, but he prefers the term herd. Bless the name of Agun. He continually kind of, because of the drip from the sky, he continues to sort of wipe his cheeks and his brow. While he's used to the damp, the cold, and he's become increasingly more familiar with the rain, to him it's a hindrance. He's used to flits of snow flying into your face rather than wet rain. I don't know if he considers to himself if he likes this better or worse, but either way, he just kind of leans down on the mane of this beast, sort of a grayish-skinned beast with zebra-like stripes. They're black stripes that come down and they're striking. The wool on it is somewhat longer than what you might see from a normal equine, but this is his companion, unlike most. And he kind of leans forward and just gives her a reassuring nod that, yes, dear, I can hear your stomach. Please be patient. We will have something shortly. And as she gives him an uncomfortable shudder because of the weather, he reaches into his pouch and pulls out some dry tack and just reaches forward and holds it to her mouth as she reaches over and grabs it. And some of the commoners that are brushing up close enough are kind of looking disdainful at him because he's not city folk. His nature is very stern. His brow looks like he's deep in thought or about to kick your ass. It's hard to decide. So when they do look up into his face, they see, albeit not a tall man, he stands about 5'8", but a stout man. And his horse just continues at a good pace through the crowd. He's already made sure that he's stowed his pouch around his neck and hanging under his hauberk. His first trip to Fellport was started out on the wrong foot when he arrived at the tavern and did not have any coin to pay for his meal. And that was an interesting conversation. Be that as it may, he considered his circumstances and is thankful to be back in the city as he kind of picks up the pace a little bit to get to the... I would imagine that I have a stable that's close by, considering this is a locale and maybe an agreement with them.
Well, guys, have you made a reservation at the Devil's Rest's stables for Tane's steed? I would think you would have.
Knowing how much he admires that particular beast, I'm sure you would have.
Of course.
So,
well, then yes.
Otherwise, he was liable to bring it into the actual tavern itself.
No, there's no room for that.
I tried, but they said no.
You're moving through the city, kind of going, picking your way through the crowds. Even if it's raining out and it's not quite chucking yet because the thunderstorm hasn't hit. There's people still out in their hoods in the rain. Foreigners look upon Ebon and go, "Why are you out in the rain?" "Oh, I don't mind." Mostly everyone here's a Peluviaphile and actually adores the rain, but not Southerners, not people of the Southern lands. No, it's too wet, too cold. Tane hears a thunderclap roar off several, you count it, 13 miles off. The number 13, its unluckiness rings in your ears. But nevertheless, you find your way to the Devil's Rest. Oh, go for it.
As the thunderclap goes through and the 13 count, you see him reach up and there's a braid that comes off of his hauberk that is a long horsehair braid. And he kind of runs his fingers upon it and says, "Trouble rides a fast horse." Speaking to himself, sort of a saying to Agiun and asking her to slow the horse.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you. Now you get down into what would be kind of like the main great market area. You see like a sea of like kiosks and stalls left, right, and center. And beyond that is the Thrall market, the great Thrall market of Fellport, where quite literally it's a festival of depressing nations of broken people. We do not need to dwell on this horrible place. But there is one thing that does stand out to you as you mean to dismount your horse and stow her in the stable there. You set her in, give her a good brushing, feed her, take care of her. You pamper your steed as all acolytes of Agun do. As soon as you come out, you see these three individuals, all in hoods, one of which is almost, well, you are not inclined this way, but one of them is strikingly beautiful. And even for a male, he is almost too pretty, fierce looking, but beautiful in a feral sort of way. And he flicks a coin to you as he just nods as they're just walking by here. And let me get you that image here. Actually, don't need it to be that goddamn huge, but yeah. It's a platinum coin. You've never seen a platinum coin before, but it has that symbol on it. As this individual passes you, just this ping, a silvery white coin. You catch it, and he just nods to you. A good about 10 paces behind the three of them is a mob of recently purchased thralls. All of them are women. They're all actually, for thralls, they're quite beautiful young women. It's a mix of nationalities, and a couple thrall takers are actually leading them off to a distant ship. You catch, you break your gaze with them just for a moment, and you see just off the way that there's the Devil's Rest, and you see your two companions out there, one of which is smoking under the awning just outside of the rain, and we'll say Fernaleus,
yes,
you actually get a two-finger wave about 150 yards off from Fernaleus under the awning. And the other two of you, you do see these three individuals. You actually saw this exchange. A platinum coin was flipped to your companion as some 40 thrall.
Do I recognize the symbol on the coin?
You do not. It is not minted in the local fashion. You've never seen this before.
Fear the goat from the front, the horse from the rear, and a man from all sides. Sir, you've forgotten your coin.
No, you can have that one. He speaks to you in a very odd accent. But from the porch of the tavern, you heard this. Both of you did. You see a smirk from under that hood. These three individuals actually walk by you and enter the tavern. But those thralls are marched on to a distant ship.
Go puff off on my my pipe as the fellows walk by and give them a good once over.
Yep, make an awareness test for me.
Okay, awareness test, yes.
I didn't realize that I was still muted. Sorry.
As awareness, so that is going to be a
Thorn if you want to roll for awareness as well.
12. It's a 12 for awareness.
12.
I can do something.
Okay. Well, actually, the individual that actually spoke is Ebon folk. He's actually a woodman, men of the woodlands. Still Ebon folk, but he from south of the city as opposed to up in the tundra where Tane is from.
19 on awareness.
Okay. Perfect, actually. Fantastic. The one leading, however, he's also a woodman, and the one in the middle, actually trailing them, you catch his swarthy skin underneath his hood, and you caught, actually, just you saw the back of his hand. He's actually an Immersian, swarthy with an ever so slight green tint, and he's got diamond-shaped freckles across the bridge of his nose. But the Nemurcian stops in the doorway, and he turns, and he looks at Fernaleus dead in the eyes. You actually see him. Make a danger sense test for me.
That's under premonition, right?
Danger sense is sight.
Oh, second. Okay. That's a 9.
A 9?
Yes.
One of these three individuals is incredibly dangerous.
Okay.
The one staring at you, perhaps not.
Okay.
But one of them is a predator. The
I'll,
oh, sorry, go for it.
as the fellow stops and looks at me, I'll sort of nod to him. I say, "I'll say, rainy night, isn't it, my friend?"
And he kind of murmurs back to you. His gaze is locked upon yours. He is staring into your eyes, maybe a little awkwardly, maybe really uncomfortably, but
I'll give him a smile and sort of try to be companionly, if you will. Say,
he smirks back at you, and then he murmurs in kind of like broken, in the broken Ebon tongue. In all my cycles, I've never seen another one.
my
And
eyes will narrow at that.
He actually goes, Keith, you might need this.
Mm-hmm. I'll give him a big broad-faced grin at that.
And you'll see a fang there.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll actually very tentatively like reach up like he's about to touch your face.
Mm-hmm.
But with his other hand, he actually pulls his hood off.
Okay.
Which you see a Nemersian there.
Mm-hmm. I'll sort of, as he reaches forward, I'll sort of interpose my pipe, take a puff off of it, let the air out, and I'll say, "Let me buy you a drink, friend. I have some companions here that are bringing me some tales from abroad. I'd like to hear yours as well."
He this is the only time he actually breaks his gaze with Fernaleus. He finally looks upon Amorous and just again smiles again with fangs. They're small, but there's some teeth there.
Gotcha.
I'm seeing this exchange, right? Because I was walking up behind him, right?
Yeah. I say you're probably like 30 feet behind them now.
So I see him pull down his hood and see
yes.
that he looks unusual.
Yeah, you did not see his teeth, however, from that distance.
But he does look unusual. Would that prompt me to do a test of some sort?
You please do, actually.
What would be appropriate in this lore and shadow?
Well, let me
Or
ask you
occult
this.
insight?
Let me ask you this. Would he immediately default to shadow lore or occult insight, or would he
Probably danger sense.
Oh, okay. Because premonition also is reading people. Premonition is the most common, that's why I'm saying.
Well, I think that based on the circumstances, it's weird. So I think I'm going to go with danger sense. That's 2d8 plus the modifier.
Oh yeah.
So that is a 17.
He's particularly odd. You know that he is a Nemersian. He's a foreigner, but you don't know exactly what he is beyond his mortal heritage.
A drink would be appropriate. Would you like a drink? I'm walking up behind him and clap him on the shoulder.
He kind of startles at that. And follows your hand back.
I say, "My friend Tane, in from the wilds to the north."
Yeah. Yes, please. What do you say? Don't look a gift horse in the mouth? My friend's offering a drink.
I'll do a little chuckle. I said, "Come, let's get out of the rain. This is..."
Yes.
He sort of looks up and gives a little bit of shudder. "I hate the rain."
So the Nemersian kind of looks at you. He doesn't like glare at you, but he kind of gives you like a firm as shit look. And he kind of, and the next thing he says, like probably unbeknownst to him, comes out as more like a snarl. And he goes, "The rain. You despise the rain as well, don't you?"
Asking me?
He's talking to Fernaleus at this point.
Okay.
Fernaleus sort of tilts his head. It is true. It's not just me. I'd read that was the case. Let's take it inside. Let's get out of this infernal downpour of water from the sky.
The foreigner actually steps out of the way of the door to let you guys go in first.
I'll step forward, open the door, and sort of hold it open for the rest, and give them the "be my guest" motion with my other hand.
And I actually walk over to Thorn, and I kind of reach out with the warrior's handshake, and you actually see that stern face just break for a moment, because he's thankful that it's a sign that the road is at an end for the time being. And he says, "It's good to see you, friend."
Thorn would take it. Good to see you as well. I could really use that drink, though.
I agree, and some maybe some snacks, right? We call them snacks here, right?
Yes, snacks.
Snacks. Let's get some snacks. Come on, Fern.
The foreigner actually he dips in first and gets out of the way. He spies his two companions that have found a booth off on the side, not too far away from everybody, but as soon as those two sit down, there's a couple other it's not a full house tonight. It's too early in the day for the bar to be hopping yet. So the food service workers don't hate their lives right now. It's getting busy. It's just before dinner.
As the fellow's starting to walk away toward them, I sort of reach out and I sort of just very gently just tap him on the shoulder and bring my hand back just to get his attention. And I say,
he'll pause, look over his shoulder at you.
"You call me Fernleus. Can I call you?"
He looks at your hand on his. I'm assuming you kind of like touched him on like the bicep or the elbow.
I sort of touched him and then withdrew my hand.
Okay. So he looks at your hand. He follows it back to your face, and he goes, "I am called Balinor." And you'll actually know that that's actually a Seelie name. You don't know the meaning of the Seelie name, but definitely his name is of the fairies. But he'll kind of like jog, like half speed walk, half jog over to his companions. And as they have sat down, the few bar patrons that have been sitting in the tables closest to them have kind of like moved away. I'm not going to make you roll for it, but there's a palpable aura in that portion of the room now. Thorn will remember, as he has played the Devil's Rest probably dozens of times. It's quickly approaching 3 digits. This is the best bar in town. They have a stage. The barkeep is Quarter Igniad himself. You remember Paranga for God knows how long. And he just goes, Thorn, stage, you get your ass up there. And a couple of the girls like... So they get pretty excited when you come by, and then one of the girls, maybe a little too perky, brings over a pitcher and a glass and leaves it there. You know the drill. You know.
Yeah.
But including you guys, there's maybe about 25-ish people. The tavern itself sits about 80. That's kind of how big you're looking at here. They also have kind of like a back patio that's actually a dock itself that sits about like 40 more people out there. But if you wish to go out back, you can go out back. But that's the current scene right now. They only have the one bartender Paranga on there.
As these guys are moving forward towards where they're going to, I'm going to reach out and sort of take Thorn's shoulder and reach over and grab a chain and bring him over, and I say his name's Balinor. I say very quietly, he's a Vampire.
Can I get a lore test now?
Sure. You go for I'll give you a +2 bonus and your lore test for that.
Thorn actually would just smirk and say, "Oh, I heard about those."
I'll just level Thorn a look like, yeah, from me, basically. Sort of
Actually, he'll actually look at you and say, "I actually heard them before you."
Of course you did. He sort of smiles at that too. So, and he'll go over and find a table not right next to those three, but with, like I said, with a table or so away from them, where you sort of keep an eye on them.
Oh yeah. We
He's going to study
talking
the
like
other two companions.
10 feet away, or
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
within talking distance, but
yes,
not yelling.
if I wanted to lean over and have a conversation with him, I could.
Okay.
But far enough away so it's not as if I'm trying to intrude on their conversation.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
I got an 18.
Yeah, you've heard that there are some things in this world, some entities actually will call themselves half vampire, but
Beings of half shadow.
essentially, yeah. Almost by definition, technically, yes.
Well,
So I look over at Thorn and I say, "Did she called you an ass?" That's not the first time. You know, you have to be careful because if 3 people call you an ass, you need to put on a bridle.
Well, of course, I think at least. So, yeah, for last, the man starts counting barmaids. I think that's 3. At least.
There's
4, actually, yes. I missed her.
We're talking shit about him as he goes AFK.
Yeah.
The fourth girl is new. We'll say that.
Okay. Fernless is going to lower his hood, and as he does, as his eyes come out of the shadow of the hood, they're actually a brilliant amber. So it's almost as if maybe the light reflecting from them makes them have an odd cast to them, but they almost jump from his face. They're so, well, normally you don't see that kind of color on the Umbre he has, so it's a bit striking in his look. He'll just sit down and order a drink, red wine specifically.
They're not going to charge you for the first rounds of drinks as you guys came in with Thorn. Yeah. That's kind of the thing right now.
Question for you. Question for the overseer of the game.
Oh yeah.
How well am I known in this bar?
You?
Yes.
If I've been here dozens of times, he's probably sang with me like half that.
Then I mean, yeah, they would know. They would know.
They would know.
You'd be the weird friend that Thorn keeps bringing around. But for
yeah. So, well, I'm just wondering if they would know enough to add a particular mixer into my wine for me, or if I needed to bring it myself.
You know what? We'll say one of the girls knows, but she doesn't tell anybody because you're quite unusual.
Okay. I am going to name her Bria.
Cool.
B-R-I, Bria. I'll wave Bria over and I'll just tell her my usual please. So, and I lean forward to her and sort of look, and I look over at Balinor, and I say, and also one for him too. The same way.
No, okay, perfect. She does that straight away. She basically dropped whatever the hell she was doing and did that for you both. And when she
I'd like a dark oatmeal ale.
Oh, there you go. Okay. When she is done bringing the other table, the one drink, the one that actually sits across from Balinor, your previous danger sense actually marks him as the predator in that group. he just kind of he kind of glares at her when she walks over, and she just kind of sets the drink down in front of Balinor, and he just kind of looks at the drink, looks back up at her, and then just kind of looks over. He's got to turn around in the booth to catch Fernaleus's eyes. He's like, "Oh, okay," and he just takes a swig, and the one who spoke, the coin flipper, if you will, he kind of snarls something at her, and then she leaves. She goes into the back and kind of doesn't come out for some time. The floor is open to the three of you.
Fernleus will be smiling at the beginning whenever he looks back at him, sort of like a very companionable smile, welcome to town, that kind of thing. But as soon as he runs Bria off, his mood will definitely darken at that. And he'll turn back around to his companions and at this point pay them no mind as he picks up his drink and sips.
Thorn will get his pitcher and his glass, and he'll walk up to the stage. He'll put the pitcher and the glass down on a little stool right there that he knows they have.
There's some hooting and hollering as you get up there. Yeah.
Yep.
They know.
I'll put down my bag next to the stool, take off my shield, and put it there as well. I'm actually going to ask for a bucket so I can actually upend my loot since it was filled with water from the walk.
One of the girls brings you a bucket, and Paranga will heckle you from the back of the room. I want some of my clapping back. And it's kind of like this, ha, and goes around. Just
right. Thorn will kind of chuckle with all that. It's like, you'll get it when you get it.
There's kind of, oh, shit, oh. Kind of like just goes over the crowd as you guys kind of jab at each other.
He'll pour himself a drink, let it sit there for a moment, look back at her and say, "What's the mood tonight?"
As he
sits there and starts to tune the lute, getting it back in order after all the rain.
She kind of gives you a brief rundown of how things have been. She reminds you that the watch isn't happy. The overseer is not allowing anyone to have the city games anymore, but we're thinking that we might wear the overseer down and he'll allow us to. The Arborians are gathering outside the city because someone has defiled the temple of Corwin in the sands. So so she says it's quite somber and there's a lot of bad things about.
All right. Well, can't have a bad night all night now, can we?
No, we hope not to be.
Oh, let's see if we can fix that a little bit, shall we?
She kind of gives you a little yay and goes back to what she's doing. She's wiping down a couple tables right now. If you're talking, Mike, you're muted. I sure 18 on a song.
No, we're doing a song check.
Oh, you're doing a song check. Okay. What sort of song does Thorn sing for us, or play for us, I should say?
Let me see if I can actually describe this properly. Basically, he's going to start off kind of just plucking the strings as he's getting everything tuned back in. And it's going to start off actually quite slow, like not really putting together a song quite yet. Like it just sounds like him playing random notes. And then as he goes along and people are kind of like leaning in, like, what's he doing? What's he playing? He'll start making it a little bit more cohesive. It'll get a little bit faster. I don't really know any actual songs to reference from this, but it's going to go from dreary, like it's raining outside, to that feeling you get when the sun starts coming back out, when the sun comes back out, that like almost like a little jaunt to the tune, the one that you can't help but clap your hands to and like tap your foot to. He's going to get it pretty mid-tempo. It's not going to be fast by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely going to be one of those ones that's going to get people like actually bouncing along with the beat, so to speak.
So yeah, you have you have the tavern, I suppose. Excuse me, save for your companions, rather quite enthralled by this. They're quite enjoying your candor. How long is his set? Let me ask this.
I mean, considering he has anything to drink, he's still kind of soaking. He'd probably only be up there for like an hour right now.
Okay, all right.
And then he'll probably take a break, go sit down, mingle a little bit, come back up when things actually hit like full swing for the bar.
Right. In that time, since your character's going to be busy now, what is Tane and Fernaleus doing?
Well, Fernaleus is going to be sitting there, of course, listening to the music, tapping his foot and such. He reaches into his pouch, his scholar's bag, if you will, and pulls out his wax tablet and the stylus, and he's gonna. Well, first off, I should ask: is Tane literate?
Yes. Very.
Okay. So do you know Ebon tongue? Is that one of the languages that you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. He's going to base you around this tablet that keep an eye on our new friend, and he's going to sort of put friend, like in emphasize the word friend. Our new friend Balinor, his other companion is frightening. Almost with a questioning way of saying it. I'm not sure how the punctuation works, but he'll do that, and he'll sort of slide that over towards so Tang can see it. And then he's going to look over to that fellow. I'm going to do a lore test, shadow lore. Actually, no.
The predator?
Premonition.
Okay.
I'm trying to read this guy's body language, basically, at this point.
This is the predator we're actually talking about?
Yes.
Okay, him
I'm
specifically.
looking for his sort of body language, looking at him and seeing how he's sitting there. I think that's
the way you are oriented and he is oriented, he's actually sitting. You are facing away from him, so you actually have to turn around in your chair. But in the booth, the angle, he is the one that you can see the most. Balinor, you can actually pretty much like see his arm and like the side of his feet. But he doesn't.
I'll sort of move my chair so that I can maybe stretch my legs out, let my my sandaled feet get a little bit of air so that it'll dry a little faster, so I can see him and look over toward him. And I have a 22 on premonition, about sort of trying to read his mannerisms. Is he comfortable? Is he uncomfortable? Does he seem to be like casing the joint, if you will?
Honestly, a little bit of all of that. He looks absolutely miserable. He's very uncomfortable, and he's watching everybody like an Atean. We'll put it that way.
Okay. As if they're all Ateans, or if he were an Atean?
As if he was. You know how shifty and cagey Ateans are.
Right. So, okay. So,
maybe a little bit worse, but he's not like jumpy or anything. He's
not like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs.
Kind of. That's actually pretty good. Yeah.
I'll sort of lean back where I can.
All things considered, Keith, he's keeping it together very well.
Okay.
I make a note of that.
Okay. So he is definitely keeping it together. All right. And then this is the guy that made Bria run away, basically.
Yep. He snarled something at her, but you didn't catch it.
Okay. I'll lean back and say, Tane, you said you know something about. I'm going to keep my voice sort of quiet so it doesn't carry under the music, but so you can actually hear it. I say, Tane, what do you know of Dompiers?
Well, I know that they are half-breeds. They and I'm not necessarily lowering my tone because I'm used to speaking just matter-of-factly. They are half-breeds, usually half of a certain breed, and in this case, we're talking like.
Okay. Yeah.
In this case, he looks like. You said he looks like. What was his
Nemersian.
other half? Nemersian.
Yeah.
And in this case, Nemersian.
Right.
That was a.
Okay.
Speaking of which, real quick, can I get a danger sense? Would that be to size up how dangerous the predator is?
Yes. Or you can settle it on the room, or you can settle it on a person. Put it that way.
This time, the person in this case.
Person, yeah.
So that's a 21.
Yeah, he's yeah, this is a
It'd be rough for even the three of us to take him out singularly.
He could thrash all of you soundly, is what this feels like.
But I don't think that this is the time or the place. Maybe
no.
we should enjoy Thorne's music, and unless things get out of hand. But
That's my thought. I'm not here to cause trouble. I was just wondering if you learned anything new in your travels. So where have you been?
Oh, well, I was up around the three-tiered mosque. It's that's what I call it. It's just I think they call it River Bend. And yes, I was exploring the tree line and found some interesting remnants. It seems that there may have been some recent action, something we can't really share in the open, if you know what I mean. But it might make people more uncomfortable than they already are. But
so something for later, you're saying? Okay.
yes, something for another time.
Maybe we should we can get some food in you. You look. He reaches over and sort of grips your arm and says, "You're looking a bit thin today.
Mm.
Maybe
Well,
we get some bread and meat in you."
As much as I'd like that, I abstain. But I would go for some nice steamed vegetables, or maybe some. I don't know. I just didn't eat all of this hardtack on the road. Maybe some grits. Those grits that you have,
Yes.
they're just wonderful when you put the sugar on top of them. It's oh.
I'll see if they have some. I'll wave down one of the other barmaids, and when she gets over, I'll pull a few coppers out of my pouch, which isn't very full at the moment, and hand them to her. And I'll say, "My friend, here's some grits and some vegetables you have here, and I would like an end of bread, and I would also like some meat the usual way. Bria knows how I like my meat."
One of
And
these
how
serving girls.
How is she?
What? Sorry.
And I say, and how is she?
She replies with, I'm well. We were the storms this season have been a bit too harsh for
Fine
us.
on the nerves, yes.
But the Arborians are more angry. If tree people can be angry.
Oh, they can.
Say there's rumors that some of these tree rangers have said that far off a holy place of theirs has been sacked or or defiled in some manner, and by the gods, they're going to finish the fight and solve the issue. Did you not see the thousands of tents north of the city?
Yes, I did.
It's another village.
I did. I heard that they've been taking ships across the ocean back to the lands of the sands. So,
Yes, I just hope that they travel nicely
I
and
do
safely.
too, as do I. He very quietly under his breath says a very quick prayer to Ebus in of course the tongue of his religion. And he says that's that's true. But my friend here, Tane, he's famished, the poor fellow. He's been out and living off of hardtack for months, and most likely oats and grass. He sort of looks at him and sort of grins at that. So he needs some civilized food, good warm grits, some honey cakes, if you happen to have any.
Oh, I love the honey cakes.
Does he eat meat?
He does not.
He does.
So bring his portion to me.
Oh.
And in the way that I normally like it.
That's sad. He does not partake of meat. Oh, right, then I'll find Bree.
It's a choice. Yes, I found that it does better for my complexion, though. But it hasn't affected my rutting at all.
She's already gone.
So everybody's in a hurry. I don't understand. I've never understood Falport.
That mare just galloped away.
I like what you did there.
About 20 minutes later, Bria comes back out, and she poor girl looks like, I would say, kind of smacked her in the mouth, and not in the fun way, perhaps, but someone took the wind out of her sails. But she puts down like this clay ice pot. It's a bowl. It's kind of like this big clay mixing bowl of like a vegetable, like everything that was in the pantry soup boiled and then spiced there for you. Plunk, sits that in there, and she gives you a big wooden mixing spoon, which is maybe a little bit awkward, but she brings basically a small meat platter, and it's got your fish, your beef, and whatever boar was slain earlier that morning, with a small, like, little itty bitty decanter of quite literally blood.
Gravy.
Yeah, right, huh? With your special red gravy for you, Fernaleus. And she doesn't look at either of you in the eyes. She just kind of looks down. She just pushes their shit. But there's thanks, Thorn. Aju. Yeah, she brings you out a French dip.
Yes.
There's another entity across the table from you guys that you have not noticed yet.
I asked her before we address the entity. I'm going to say there was no broth used in this, right? There's no.
No, just water.
Thank you, my lass.
She kind of like she doesn't look up at you, but she just kind of like looks out of the corner of her eye across the table at like a pair of legs.
Who is this?
I'll look up.
When you look up, there is the entity standing there is a woodman. He is almost a little too typical of his subspecies of the Ebon folk. He is almost feral and lupine in features. He's a little on the scruffy side. His fingernails are a little bit long, and he does not address you two at the table, but he's looking at her, and he says, Farad wishes to let you know that he apologizes for what he said. They were unkind things. And he just kind of very slowly, very fucking creepily looks over his shoulder at the entity sitting there with his hood on, kind of trying to push himself away from everything else in the bar while he's sitting in that booth.
This is very good, right? He's looking at Fern and he says, this is very good. He's trying to make the culture. He's trying to be part of Felport. You said this to me your first time. You know,
Yes.
when I first met, he's being very good with the culture, but he definitely does not smell like horses. I mean, it's something worse than horse. Is that shit?
Finlay sort of smiles at that and looks up, and he says, he leans forward and says, Bria, is this acceptable to you, my dear? He gives her his best smile.
She doesn't look up, but she just nods very meekly, very demurely, and she goes back into the kitchen.
Fernleas looks over at this woodman before he leaves. He says, pardon me, sir, may I ask, what did this Farad say that was so worthy of apology?
It does not bear worth repeating. We have been on the road for some time, and the rain is... He kind of like chews, almost like he doesn't know what the word is, and he's trying to like going through like the Rolodex of his tongue, trying to form the words with his lip. It is anathema to their kind.
Fernleas nods and says, I definitely understand that. And he sort of grins at the fellow, and he says, I very much understand that. So, and if you would please, sir, please apologize to Farad. I did not mean insult when I sent Balinor the glass of wine earlier. I did not realize that his companion was one who would partake of that particular type of wine himself.
I'm sure that Farad would appreciate such a gesture. Something with a little bit more mixture than wine, if you understand my meaning.
Well, it's a particular vintage, I understand. Fernleas reaches out to sip his own wine and says, I'll see if I can have some brought to the table for you. Would he like it? He actually takes the little decanter and sort of pours his au jus on top of his meat. And he sets it down, takes out his knife, takes a piece and puts it in his mouth, wets his lips just a bit and says, the people here also understand the epicureal tastes of more refined gentlemen, if you will. It's probably disgusting to Tane.
Balinor would like to enjoy your company.
I'll look over at Tane and say,
He just
what
kind
do you
of
think?
He's welcome to join us, though. I mean, just like you're already here, so we're already on good footing. I've settled in. I have my broth and my steamed vegetables, and we would like to have your company.
Are they in a booth over there? I'm assuming against the wall in a very defensive position.
Yeah, they're not in the corner booth. They're in the second to last corner booth. The last one is not being occupied.
Okay. Maybe we could make a concession here, Tane. Why don't we take the corner booth there and invite them there as well?
You may also slide a table over to our booth.
Ah, excellent. And he'll stand up and actually start pulling the table over to the booth. Mind your soup there, Tane.
You spill a little bit on his oh shit, a little bit on his lap. Oh, God damn it, Mike.
At least it's warm.
Yeah, okay. Right.
So it's just 15 feet. So bring it over there to them and sort of arrange the stools there and take a seat. And I will look over and sort of do a half bow to the fellow I'm assuming is Farad.
He's
And I'll
trying to
say,
make himself as inconspicuous and small in that corner. He's not doing a very good job because he kind of just radiates this
yes.
not pleasing aura.
Okay. I'll nod to him. Of course, that aura is probably still affecting me as well, being, but I will sit down with a good arm's length between myself and the table before we can actually have a conversation.
Yeah.
And
you guys are the only ones on that side of the bar.
Yeah.
Thorn has a very nice group of people for his audience, and of course, Amorous is like you see all this happening over there. I mean, you pause for just a bit, or you play a little bit louder to drown out the moving of a table. But
question for you: as we actually get over there, and I sit down and I look to look over to Farad and sort of nod to him and introduce myself. I am Fernleas. This is my friend Tane. As I take a breath, could Thorn at that point begin his song about the older songs about vampires and dumpiers?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
And it's literally, I'll turn and listen. It's almost like perfect timing, buddy. So.
From like across the room, you look over at them, and you guys are joining the other group. You actually see him just wink at you, but like not even skip a beat while he's playing.
I'll wave. So
how does that song go? Bloody Tears, Vampire Killer.
According to your Witcher.
My personal favorite from Castlevania got brought up was Bloody Tears. It's from Castlevania 2.
Right. You guys sit down and now Farad just kind of like looks at you like it doesn't. He's got his hood down, but he just kind of looks at me. He groans something. Oh Christ, more company.
Why do you come to a city if you do not want to be around people? It's very foreign to me.
He turns and he almost looks up when you can partially see maybe his chin, which is clean shaven, but the one that addressed you initially puts his hand on Tane's shoulder and says, "We are on an errand. Farad is simply traveling with us, and unfortunately this time he is not enjoying himself."
I know this. The ass of a king is still but an ass.
Ass indeed. Now,
not everybody is cut out to be so clever around men. But dinner, and he starts eating.
He, the one speaking, he holds his arm out almost in that warrior's handshake. My village calls me Ormond. I am the property of Lady Adra. You actually see a tattoo on his forearm, like where your hand would go. Like it's like half a scar, half a tattoo in there. You can't tell which.
So he has no hand, just the tattoo.
No. Okay. He has he's got a hand there.
It's tattooed.
Yeah.
Okay. So she has marked you. This is a blessing to you, right? Your clan must be very proud of this. You brought all day, and sounds like she's a pretty woman. Tell me of her, as he's got like a little bit of warm
cabbage in his beard.
I'm interested to hear of this, Fern. We should hear of this beautiful lady that is so smitten.
Yes, we should.
Let's say Ormond sits across the way from Balinor, which makes him sit next to Farad. Farad again just kind of like goes back into his corner and just like silently bitches and moans about the rain. You guys have your like a private conversation here. Since it's been long enough here, I need a shadow, actually I need a Shadow Sickness defense test from you guys.
Ooh, okay. Shadow Sickness defense test. That's a psych test, right?
Yeah, it's sight-based, yep.
Okay. Or a spell defense test.
Technically, in this case, it would be spell defense, but use your spirit modifier.
22.
I'm assuming I'm too far away to have to deal with this.
Nope, this is the entire room.
So what are we doing for this?
2d8. You won't have grades in spell defense, but it would be your spirit modifier. So just make a spirit roll.
Yeah.
Which I know you have a pretty good stat there.
You said spirit, not sight, right?
Spirit,
Yes.
yes. Spell defense
Okay.
is a sight-based skill, but this is
Gotcha.
corruption defense, which is spirit.
Okay.
That's a 20.
That's a 20. Oh, man, you guys all passed. Son of a bitch. All right, cool.
Can I get a Shadow Lord test to see what it was? If I could place it?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
You can try. Come on. Do it. Do it.
16.
Come on. Yeah. 6. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's coming off of Farad in the corner. But in regards to Amorous there, you kind of you feel this cold like wave just kind of wash over you, like say like you've been working all day and you finally sit down. It's like a wave of exhaustion washes over you, but you're not tired. It's just like sickening pit in your stomach feeling. So you might, it's up to you. You might miss like 1 or 3 notes because that was really fucking gross. And how does he react to that? If you want to give us a brief soliloquy there, by all means, go for it. Since your music is affecting the entire tavern at this point.
Well, funnily enough, I did a second song check to see if I would actually slip up or not. I actually popped a 31.
Oh shit! There you go. There you go.
So, no, he doesn't slip in terms of like actual like miss a note.
Mm-hmm.
Like for like a brief second, it would seem like he might have, but he's actually able to almost seamlessly put it into the song anyway, like that bit of like a dramatic pause, I guess, in like between verses.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Oh, what the fuck was that? All right, never mind. Let's go back to it.
Kind of thing.
Yep, pause for effect. You know, like right at the top of the bridge before the chorus starts again. That whole no music for a second, then it pops back in again. Thorn himself, though, would get kind of like a hard look in his eyes and look over at the table. And if he catches either of his teammates' eyes, they've kind of seen this look before when he knows some shit's going down. Or like when he's like, we might need to dip out of here. If any of the three, if any of the other three see it, it just looks like not quite trying to look through you, but just that hard, what are you up to type of look. Like he's not trying to pry, he's not trying to start anything, but it's just like, all right, something's off here, but I'm not going to make a scene about it. And then within basically a couple seconds from that, he would look back out to the crowd, particularly to the girls, and kind of give his half smirk like normal and go back to playing.
Beautiful, beautiful. So what is the reaction of the rest of the party?
I was probably mid, like taking my knife and spearing a piece of meat and start going to my mouth when it happens, and I stop and sort of look and go to place the meat in my mouth, I don't open my mouth all the way like I normally would, which would expose my teeth. It's almost an instinctual reaction not to okay, basically a lesser predator being confronted by an alpha predator does not show its teeth. So it's almost an instinctual thing for me. So it's, I basically slide the meat into my mouth, place the knife off to one side, look over at him, and I'll slide the plate over to Fernlaeus. And I'll say, "You seem to be hungry."
Farad just kind of like he's been looking at the wall, but he kind of just like looks over at your plate. And he just kind of like scoots over, but he leans forward. He leans all the way over, and he actually takes the little decanter of your au jus. Actually, takes that from you, and he actually throws that back. He'll set it down next to next to Balinor's empty cup, and he like sticks his fingers in like the meat juice au jus of Fernlaeus's plate. He just kind of like sucks on his two fingers with there and just kind of sits there in silence.
Just out of curiosity, with a 22 for Shadow Lord, do I know what they just did?
Yeah, he's a vampire.
No, I mean the act that he performed right then. Is there a term for it?
No, actually, that is you have spent enough time in the direct influence of an entity of the undead, and you've had Congress with this entity. You're going to start generating shadow corruption just by being in the same area as these things.
Oh, okay.
But
I think it's getting.
He's a vampire.
I believe that the light is evading us at the moment, my friend Fern.
It is, but I
don't think we are amongst friends.
I don't think we're necessarily amongst enemies either. Just he sort of holds his finger to his lips as if he's thinking about something.
Farad leans over and just kind of rasps into Orman's ear. "I'd like to step outside. Get up." And so Orman just like scoots over in the booth, and he passes. You're kind of in his way, by the way, Fern.
Fern's going to stand up and move his stool back as well to give him room. And as he stands, Fernlaeus is going to look at him and says, "I do not mean this to be threatening, but I do understand the Overseer has a dim view of," and he sort of leaves that hanging and sort of gestures in his direction. And he says, "So be careful, my new friend."
Farad, he gets up and he stares into your eyes. You actually finally get a look at this guy from under his hood. His eyes are a brilliant crimson.
Okay. I look into those eyes.
Those are the eyes of the most terrifying predator you've ever seen.
Yes. I'm going to do just because of the way this character has always been his entire life. I don't think Fernlaeus has ever actually come face to face with an actual vampire.
He has not. This is your one. This is, you never forget your first.
Yeah, so Fern sort of grins, and he'll say in Shadow Feywise, "Beautiful," and he'll just beam ear to ear as he looks this fellow in the eyes, and he gives him the most. It's almost like a fanboy look. This is what he's not the shadow tongue.
What few words you've been able to piece together of unseelie?
Yes, Shadow Fey-wise. So
He doesn't say anything. He just stares at you. It's not a glare, but it's a stern as shit look, and you could not lie to those eyes.
No.
You couldn't begin to. But what he does do, he actually reaches up and he actually flicks your cheek with one of his claws, which cuts you open.
Okay.
And he actually runs that same finger down the cut. He sucks on his finger as he leaves.
Okay. Fernlaeus is going to reach up to his cheek and hold his fingers there, almost like, and he'll at that point remember that he has that Tane is at the table with him. Look over at him, and it might actually be a little disturbing to Tane because the look on his face is almost ecstatic, as if he was just touched by the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen in his life.
And Tane, in turn, is not looking at you per se with it, but he is looking at you with such an intense gaze right now. You notice his hand is gripped around the handle of that spoon so tightly that you can see, the whites of his knuckles, so to speak. Because he has seen Shadow, and you've gathered that he has fought the Shadow before, and this is just, he's probably practicing some breathing techniques as you're staring at him. He's box breathing. That's what he's doing.
Make me a meditation test, Dave.
Can I use my other one, the
what? All right.
Self-control?
You have okay. You can use self-control in this case. As Farad actually steps out, he'll walk by the stage, and he'll actually reach into a pocket of his coat, and he'll actually take out 3 of those similar minted coins, which are platinum coins. I cannot stress to you enough. 4 of them, just like that are like stacked one on top of each other. Plunk. As he leaves, he just says nothing to you. Doesn't even look at you, but he just leaves a disgusting amount of money on the stage. I'll leave that up for the audience there. But yeah, you guys don't really see Fraud for like maybe the next couple hours.
Okay. As Fernlaeus sees Tane trying to struggle with his own control, he'll realize what this looks like and start bringing himself back under control a bit, using his own self-control to sort of, because he looks at you, he looks at Tane and says, that may not have looked very, very good. And he reaches into his pouch and pulls out a kerchief and dabs at his face a bit, sort of patting that wound and holding it till the bleeding stops. He says, he sits down and says, my mother told me that they were enticing, almost intoxicating.
Balinor leans over and he says, it's lucky that your minstrel friend has been playing, otherwise I would have made a scene. He looks up at Ormond and says, can they come with us? I know we're here for the women. But he just kind of lets that hang in the air, and Ormond just kind of looks at the front door,
and Tane just without skipping a beat, he says, I don't follow a dark road, new friend. And he says friend dripping with sarcasm.
Ormond looks down at Fernlaeus, and he says, you should probably talk your friends into coming with us.
He looks over at him and he just looks at him and just says one word. Why?
Amongst your own kind.
My own kind live up yonder within the mountain that shadows Fellport.
The other kind.
He sort of smiles. He says, you assume there aren't any of those up there.
There's not many.
No, there's not. So what is, my friend, before I can deign to try to convince my friend Tane and yonder friend Thorn to, even consider such an offer, I must know more about what you're about, where you're going, and why you would wish us to come with you.
We might have work
Speak
for you.
very plainly right now, because if our paths are to be intertwined, well, let's just say that we need to be very clear right now, if you please.
There's a fair amount of work that we could use you for. Someone who knows horses might appreciate some of the work in the wilderness. This is still Ormond talking. You kind of get the feeling that Ormond is the one who's actually in charge here, strangely enough.
Friendliest leaned back a bit and he said, use us. You're assuming we're for hire. Now, I would very much like to study your friend who just left yonder door. And I've not met many of, I looked over at Valinor, and I've not met many of your kind, and I would love to hear your story. But if we need to know where you're going and what you are about.
Well, we are in Felport to gather some young women for a village known as Mizzerine.
Aptly named.
We are looking for, well, these young women will be, we're taking them out of a life of servitude in the thrall market and putting them in a place where they will be appreciated and cared for. And of course, where young women are concerned, there are young men who may wish to be with those young women.
Of course, they always are. I mean, young men, young women, they do what young women and young men do. I look over at Tane. Say, friend Tane, have you heard of this village? You heard tales of it all?
This is new to me. But will this be an ongoing thing, this expulsion? Now, I liken it too much like, you call it a fart, but this is much, much worse. This clears a fucking room. So I'm just curious if we will be assaulted with this on a regular basis. If we agree to your proposition. You know what I'm speaking of.
I believe what my friend Tane is speaking of is the assault of the shadow that we all experienced not a few moments gone.
You will get used to it should you wish to come with us. It will lessen over time.
I am not willing to be used to it in the fashion of accepting it into my being.
That does not require that.
That is an anathema to my faith.
It's anathema to most faiths, but
It's fascinating, mind you. Studying something like that up close, understanding it, maybe even I look over at Tane, learning to defend oneself against it, maybe. It is an opportunity, though a risky one.
You speak truth. There is some, what you say, treasure in the knowledge that we could garner from them.
and as you can tell, money is of no object to us.
I have
But
noticed that.
speaking plainly, my treasures do not clink together or glitter. They gleam in the sun and neigh in the night.
Well, my friend Tane may not have need of money, but a poor scholar is always in need of money. Just what kind of riches are we talking about here?
What sort of riches do you wish to have?
The best riches are the ones which enrich the mind, although the ones which enrich the belly are also welcome as well.
Or
we can make that
the
happen.
pelvis.
Well, that too. There
We can
are many
certainly
women.
make that happen.
There are many women going this way as well. It seems, my friend Tane.
I can tell you, your fair folk friend will be very popular.
I would assume so, but I also worry the fair folk tend to wilt under the oppression of the shadow, if you will. I would fear for his health.
If his mind is sturdy enough, then he will get used to it. As we're talking about him from across the room, we're talking about him, not to him.
Yeah.
So you can develop a callousness to it.
Sure.
At least that's what I'm being told.
I would definitely know. I would probably have a clue as to if somebody's right. I mean, what
Maybe.
he's saying is a load of apples.
You don't know.
17 on a shadow lore test.
So I'm gonna add. You know what? Actually, yeah, I'm gonna roll a shadow lore test, and I'm gonna ask him.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that was a 24.
Okay.
I'm going to say I am unaware of any method of developing a herd immunity, I think it's called, to this specific affliction, malady, disease, illness. I think you get the point.
Perhaps
So
you would wish to have the opportunity to find out if there is one.
This is one
You
of her
do
nicest
seem
eyebrows will
like-
raise at that.
You perhaps
color me intrigued. Now, admittedly, I'm not a smart man, but my friend Fern is, and I trust his opinion. Not as much as my mare, but she always speaks the truth. But it would have to rely also on my friend Thorn, but color me skeptical.
Yes, you would have to speak with Thorn, or if I'm to leave here, my two companions would have to come with me. And if they say nay, as I'm sure Tane's companion will, I may have to as well.
I'm sorry.
That was bad.
that was and this campaign's gonna be like just gonna carpet bomb horse jokes through this whole thing.
That was a horse joke?
Was it a horse joke? Oh shit.
Well, it is now. So
I say nay nay.
yes, I say nay. So yes, we will have to discuss this, and I would say we can have an answer for you by the morn, but let's say we can have an answer for you by sunset tomorrow.
We're leaving at sunset. Or no, we're leaving at we're
Sounds like
leaving
you've
at
rearranged plans
brightest
for us. I
day.
appreciate that.
No.
Brightest day.
He actually pauses. Oh, there is no sunset anymore, is there? Or sunrise?
Well, there is. There's a small, brief window of brightness that carpets the land, just not as.
We are leaving
It's like
tomorrow
being-
at brightest day.
I look over at Tane and I say we could speak it over with Thorn and see if we'd be interested in going. Maybe consult some others about it. What do you say? We're best to bring light than the darkness of darkness.
Mm. Yes. It's not the first time I've consorted with the darkness, but this could be.
I
What is
suppose
this? What
this
is this
time,
riches that you're offering? Do we have a? Can we get a tangible amount? All that we wish? The platinum coins, the thrall?
there's more. There's more than just coins in this for you three. At this point, Thorn, you're probably done with your hour-long set by now.
Probably.
And that, with that, we'll do that next scene. I think we'll actually wrap up for the evening here. When Thorn actually comes down from the stage, we'll say you walk in on this conversation right about now. Go for it.
Well, first off, after he puts the 4 coins up there, the 4 platinum coins,
Yep.
and I get done,
Yep.
and I gather all my stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to take 2 of those coins and give one,
Which coins?
the 4 platinum coins he put down.
Right. Okay, you're talking about those specifically. Okay.
Well, I mean, other people threw coins up there, but it wasn't said about that, so I didn't know.
Yeah, theirs is the only 4 platinum that you got.
Okay. Did I get any other coinage?
Or
that's something we can deal with later?
Yeah,
we can deal with later.
I'll send it
Okay.
to you.
I would, well, in the case I got other coinage, I'm going to take one of those platinum coins and I'm going to flick it over to Bria. And I'm going to tell her, spread that amongst you 4 girls and Paringa.
She nods. She'll.
Any of the other, so I have the other coinage. I'm going to take about. You just keep adding shit. See,
I know. Sorry. Yep. I'm fucking up your math.
Yeah. Fuck it. The 4 gold.
Yep.
I will hand to Bria. Tell her to put between the 4 girls and Paringa, and I will pocket the silver and copper for myself.
Okay. All right.
Also, as I hand her the gold, I will say, buy a round for the house.
That's a lot of alcohol right there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you come over and rejoin your companions here at the kind of somewhat, well, now deserted portion of the bar.
I'll say, my friend Thorn, let me introduce you to Balinor, and this is Ormond. They have a proposition for us, I'll say. And I'll look over at Tane and say, what do you think of this proposition?
Skeptical. If you'd be willing to cavort with the darkness, then we might come out richer in mind and possibly in body, but we might also slide down the path of no return.
Well, I'll actually look over at Fern. Well, you seem pretty intent on giving this a go.
I would like to, but at the same time, I would not drag the 2 of you in without your consent. And I would appreciate 2 friends at my back. I would not do this alone.
I'm always up for a new adventure. And if I come out richer for it, so be it. Maybe I'll get some new songs.
Very well may. So, what do you know of this town, this
Mizzerine.
Mizzerine? Have you ever heard of it?
Maybe it's time for a bardic lore test.
So it sounds as if there's a town that has never heard the velvety voice and the plucky strings of Thorn. A new place to play.
That's all the more reason for me to go, huh?
And I would love to sing there myself. And I'll look over at Ormond, who seems to be the one to do most of the talking. And I say, if I were to agree to this, I would need to gather some provisions for myself and my friends.
Your food and your accommodations will be taken care of.
I understand.
But if you wish to say farewell to some companions here in the city, then you have time to do such a thing.
I would definitely wish to do that. If I am
you have nothing.
Sorry, what's that, Mike?
I said Thorn says nothing because he knows exactly how he's going to be saying some goodbyes tonight.
Right.
We will be taking transit by boat?
By ship.
Does the ship have accommodations for a steed?
Oh, of course. It'll be comfortable enough.
I wish that she eats the finest of feed. You understand?
She'll be fed well.
Well, then, for the time being, I agree to this bargain, and but I also want to inform you that if I break the agreement at any time due to unnerving nature of our endeavors, we part on equal footing.
Don't worry, there will not be. You will not be branded an oath breaker at this point. No oaths have been sworn between us.
Do they look like they speak Shadow Tongue?
You're pretty sure. You're about 70% sure that they do.
Then I lean forward and I say, then we are in agreement in Shadow Tongue.
Oh, fair enough. Everybody within earshot takes a point of vitality damage then.
Oh, I would have known that, right?
Yeah, all three of you, no save.
I didn't realize that. Hold on, I didn't know that.
I'm good. I'm fine with that.
I wouldn't have done that if I knew it would have done damage. I thought it was.
It'll just make Fernleus hiss. It's like a cat caught by a rocking chair in a room full of rocking chairs.
Fucking getting caught with things I didn't know. All right.
That's okay. So, and he says, I apologize. I lost my composure there for a moment. Friend Thorn, please never sing us, or Tang, never teach Thorn a song in that language, please.
I'm not the one that sings. You are.
Okay. Friend Tang, please teach me a song in that language at some point. Once we've learned not to harm my ears quite so violently.
It's like a white hot knife being stabbed into your eardrum.
My friends, I will give you some soothing roots for that. I apologize. I had memorized the tongue, but I'd never realized that it would do such.
Strangely enough, Ormond doesn't blink. He takes damage from it because he's immortal, but he doesn't blink.
He's had it happen before.
Which might look really unsettling. But at that, we will go for closing soliloquies here on the prologue. Mike, as our newcomer, take it away, my man.
Well, Thorn just got done playing a set for an hour. So he's hungry in more ways than one. So with really no to-do or any fanfare, he's actually going to take his seat after, especially after that momentary brush with the shadow tongue, getting kind of a what the fuck look on his face. He's going to call for probably the perky one to come bring him another pitcher, as well as bring him a dinner plate.
As
and
you
then
know,
he is going. Huh?
I said, as you know, you eat free. You're the bard.
Yeah, right. He will eat, he will drink, and he will probably flirt for the rest of the night.
Does he get
is told,
drunk? Is my question.
He will get tipsy, but
Okay.
he has been drunk enough that he knows to eat while he drinks, so he never actually gets drunk.
Ah, okay.
Now he will get to the point, especially if the rest of the bar gets drunk, that he will get up there and do, for lack of better terminology, stereotypical drunken Irish pub songs. And he will probably play those until the bar clears out. But yeah, that's pretty much the rest of his night. He's going to do what a bard does. He's going to drink and he's going to sing. Well, he's going to play, not sing, you know what I mean?
Beautiful. Fernaleus, you are up.
So Fernaleus is going to sort of sit back. His mind is reeling. He has just come face to face with something he has been seeking for no less than 100 cycles. One of those who are of the same type as his father, whom he's never met, and his mother refuses to tell him the name of. He orders a bottle of wine and mixes a bit and shares it with Valinor. And of course, as soon as Thorn starts doing the Irish drinking songs, he'll actually go up and he'll sing a few. He'll lead the bar in a round of singing and such if they will, and try to see if he can get a bit of a companionable sort of feel with these two people. And he's also at the same time sort of sizing them up, looking to see if they're actually going to relax in their presence or if they're going to stay stiff-backed and sort of remote. In a way, he's trying to lure them out to see if they're actually going to lead them into, I don't know, their doom, or if this is more of a true business proposition between equals, effectively. He's a bit worried about Tane. He didn't know Tane knew those words. He's heard of them, but he's never actually heard them. Thorn, he's not as much worried about. He seems to be able to get out of scraps all the time, and obviously with his traveling and the way he does, he'll probably find his way out. And Tane probably would as well. But he's sort of worried about himself a little bit because even though he fancies himself a worldly man because he spent quite a bit of time in Felport and with the potential threats and such that occurred in the city and, of course, in the areas around and such, he's never actually been outside of the Ebon Vale. So he's a bit of apprehensive, but he's trying to cover that up with a bit of drink and a bit of merriment. But he's also at the same time calculating in the back of his mind while he needs to go home and get and what he needs to bring with him. And basically wondering if he's leading his friends into a dangerous situation that he may not be able to lead them back out of.
Beautiful. And just for my notes, you're keeping an eye on the other two and seeing if they relax. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. After a good about 3.5 hours, they do actually.
Okay, good.
You will not see Farad until close to what dawn would be normal time, and he comes back. And it actually had stopped raining by then, so he's particularly more pleasant.
Okay.
But moving straight along to Tane, give us your soliloquy.
So, quick question before I roll into this.
Perfect.
Is there an area nearby where horses might be kept and possibly for sale even? That they just keep them in a stall that
Yeah, there's a
for
horse
sale?
merchant nearby, yeah. I mean, the great market's right there.
Right. Okay. And they keep the good-looking ones up front, I would imagine.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
they'd
So-
have to, otherwise they would never make money.
He actually, he's thinking about his words, and looking down in his cup, he realizes that he had downed the first stout ale too quickly, and on his empty stomach, he had forgotten and felt that he was being a little excited in the situation, and so he's staring into his food as he's finishing that, and takes a moment to turn to both of his friends in the evening as he hangs out a little bit longer. He has a couple more, but he paces himself. At least now he has some food on his stomach. But he does order like a bowl of snacks for horses. Snacks. That's what they call them in Felport. Snacks.
Brains.
Some grains. I don't know if they'd have grains here, but they do make their own bread. So maybe I could get some grain. And he takes a moment to apologize to both of his friends, and a little tipsy apologetic, you know what I mean? Those moments where he's feeling the alcohol, and he's like, not "I love you, man," and he's crying, but sort of, "I appreciate you and I apologize for what I did. It was in a moment of exuberance. I won't let it happen again." He makes his way out and spends a couple minutes with his mare, and as he's brushing her and giving her a little bit of a snack, he's sort of talking to himself, and he says, "Is this the right step for me, Trigby? I don't know. You had so much years on me and wise and wisdom. I trust my friends, so I will trust this path, but may Aegon be with me." And he says goodbye to her for the moment, and he makes his way over to the stalls, and he gives a little bit of attention to some of the horses that come up to the edge, but he makes his way back to the more ill and infirm. And is anybody around him right now, other than me?
There is one guy sitting on the fence smoking, but he seems like the one guy paid to watch the horses. Obviously, you're not going to have horses stolen in the
Right.
city, but he's babysitting the pasture. Really, was he doing?
He's probably like a teenage kid or something, right?
If you're 25, he's 20.
Okay. So I walk up to him and I say, and you can probably, I'm not reeking of it, but you can kind of smell the alcohol, and I give him a silver and I say, "I just wish to admire the beasts, if you don't mind. I mean no harm. I've got a little bit of feed to share with them. You can check it if you like."
It's fine.
And
Get in
so
there
he
with
makes
him.
his way. Yeah, and so I make my way back to the more ill and infirm. And if he's the only one there, I'd like to do a horse ritual on the more infirm ones to give them health.
Oh, shit. All right. What are you going to try to do?
How long is this going to take? It's 10 minutes, right?
Well, that actually depends on what you're trying to do. If you're, because I mean, there's no. there's no magical healing in that. But I mean, if with your
Maybe endurance. So maybe it'd be better to give them endurance for the time being so that they can reach the good home and the rider that they are reaching.
okay, you can do that. Go ahead and narrate for us what components you actually put out there, your spell components, your ritual components, and tell us what you do. You're going to shed a spell point for that.
Okay. So as Tane begins the process, it begins with mostly, it looks like he's nonchalantly spreading grain out for them to feed, but this is actually the beginning of this specific ritual for the horses. Um, it's the sign of good faith. It's the bringing of food, and he breaks off a couple carrots and starts feeding them to a couple of them. And as he brings forth the horsehair, it actually begins to, and this is where he needs to stay behind the horses so that the guy watching doesn't see it, because the horsehair begins to glow faintly as he begins to rub it along the surface of the skin as if he's grooming them as you would a brush. But as he does so, he is speaking words of encouragement and long life, and singing faintly singing the words to them, the gifts of Agun. And while he feels tired after this, he feels what he has done, and in doing so, he can feel the spirits of these horses. They're stronger now. They feel more alive and invigorated, if you will. And so he takes a moment to give them all a little extra attention. And this overall takes a little over probably an hour and a half. And the guy actually came by, and he had to sort of give him a sidelong glance, like, and hide his holy symbol. And he just kind of acted like he's just caring for the horses. And he imagines that the guy probably doesn't realize what he's doing. He's just lightly singing to him.
He's not paying attention to you, actually.
Okay, because
It's in
I'm
the
not
middle of
making
the
a
night.
ruckus.
He doesn't give a shit now.
All right, good. So I finish my aspect, and with a sad heart, I know that if I could, I would buy all of them and let them run free, but that is not everyone's walk in life. And so as he climbs out of the pen, he makes his way back to the stable as he goes to roll out his bedroll next to his mare and turn in for the night, as he thanks Agion for all the blessings that she's given to him. Wonders what fate has in store for him, because the world is very dark. We need the light back. We need to ride it in like a steed, a brilliant steed. And he's falls to sleep dreaming of the horses riding the snowy plains of his homeland.
With that, thank you for that, Dave. That's actually very beautiful. With that, we will close tonight's prologue. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We took a brief hiatus, and we'll be back next week for session 1 of Shapes in the Dark. Good night, everybody.